Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Nerd Ledger. We were off last week because we went to the movies.
Movies.
Yeah, which is actually what we're going to talk about today. So, yeah, I'm Cage, that's Chair. We're the Nerd Ledger. We talk about nerd stuff. And, today we're going to talk about War of the Rohirrim, the latest in the Lord of the Rings films. It's animated, and it takes place 183 years before the events of the movies that everybody's familiar with. Yeah, there's also like a whole bunch of news, but I'll cover that in a separate podcast
Yeah.
because it's a lot. And there's like a Superman trailer and stuff that happened today and whatnot.
Yeah, and I'm just 100% out of the loop on a lot of things. I think I saw that text, but I'm just really out of the loop right now. I haven't been watching anything on Disney Plus or watching any anime or doing anything really at all. I've just been playing like the same game over and over.
Yeah.
Getting a little burnt out on it, not gonna lie. Like it's just really wrecked my I used to go to bed at around 10 o'clock and lay in bed and watch shows for like an hour or two. I really need to get back to that, but I end up playing this game till like 11 or midnight, and I really just need to change it up.
Yeah, you gotta watch Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, I really should. Everyone tells me to watch Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, do it. Do it. So,
Mm.
but yeah. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, War of the Rohirrim. Go ahead,
Mm.
talk about it. Do your thing. Or you want me
Oh,
to talk
okay.
about what
Well,
it's
we can
based
both.
off first?
How about I yap about it and then I'll ask you questions off based on what it's based off my normie understanding of Tolkien because I didn't read any of the extended stuff because I'm just not doing that.
It's technically not extended. It is in
Okay.
the appendices of the Lord of the Rings.
Okay, okay, so the extended, right? So when you say extended, you mean
No,
things that are outside of the main
no,
books, right?
it's at the end of Return of the King in the appendices. You just flip, that's where the story is.
You mean where all the family trees are and everything? Anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yes,
Like,
yes, but there's different
so
sections of that. Yes, one has family
okay,
trees.
so either way, I was really impressed by the animation. What really blew me away, I think, most of all, is the voice acting work. All the voice acting was 100 was really solid most of the time. I don't think anything was just out of key or awkward or anything like that. Next that came the sound work. Man, when that horn blew, it literally shook the theater, dude. Like it really it shook the whole theater when they were blowing the horns. So that was really cool. I am a fan of anime, as I just talked about again. I'm disappointed that I'm not watching anime recently, so I'm a fan of anime. um, and so I really enjoyed like some of the anime parts about this. I guess I enjoyed the story. I thought it was well paced and fine. I didn't think anything was too out of the ordinary, too crazy. I don't know. Did they change anything that you? Is there any major changes they made to the original story that made you really upset? And if upset's
Um,
like too strong a word, that's fine. But like, you know what I mean, though, right? Like, is there anything that
yeah,
like just like why do they have to change that?
it's not that they changed anything in particular. The thing is, right, like they just
Mm-hmm.
expanded what was there because there's not a lot there. Um, I guess change the only real change other than all the stuff they added is like Freyaloff didn't show up at Helm's Deep. He took back Medicilled in Edoras. Like after Helm was already dead, he came out of Dunharrow and got all like he forced the Dunlendings out of Edoras and he took back Medicilled and killed Wolf.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only real difference I can think of. I mean, also, I mean, I guess when Helm killed Freka, like there was
Mm-hmm.
really like no one was really around. But that's not like a major change.
Oh,
So,
like the other king from the Easterlands or whatever, that like Wolf's
well,
father.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. He's not a king.
Mm.
Um,
Well, you mean the Lord, you know what I mean, the
yeah,
Baron or whatever. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. My sister said she didn't like the part where he got like one shot, but also I thought that was pretty funny because that is something that's like
That's
happened in
literally
history.
the
Like,
story.
yeah, the story. Yeah. I told her that. Like, I think that's exactly like what happens word for word in the story. And also, like, there are instances of like, some really famous, important person. I'm sure you could find in multiple instances of some really important, famous person who like fell over and hit their head and like died immediately.
Yeah,
So there's that too. And it's happened throughout history, made awkward things. Um,
yeah.
So, I thought like the Wolf's Revenge story was fine. Like, of course he was going desperate. It was very classic villain story, I think is the best
It's
way.
just such a the story they concocted for this
Hmm.
movie is so it's so basic in the way that like you can put
Yeah,
that
it's very
story
simple.
in
Very simple.
any other movie and you wouldn't feel anything different. Like there's nothing particularly Tolkien-esque about the story itself.
Yeah, it's absolutely very basic, simple story. Sorry about that. I'm just trying to get this French onion dip open, and man, it just won't open. Wow. Okay, okay. All right. And so it was really basic, obviously, but there were a lot of really cool set pieces. Again, like the animation was really beautiful, but it also looked very anime. Was
Yeah,
this
it
made
was
by a
very
Korean
anime.
studio? Was it made by
Yeah.
a Korean? Yeah. So had
Was
a very unique art style.
it was it was good in a lot of parts and to me if some of the animation felt quite lazy in other parts. Like it felt like
Yeah.
animation that was more geared towards
Well, that's how anime works, like where do you spend the budget? Where are the writers gonna spend the most time making the most frames when it's a fully animated movie, Like I think with a lot of American movies, it was like pretty consistently laid throughout the entire movie that the frames per second would be really consistent. And in a lot of animation and different kind of movies, they kind of go loosey goosey with sometimes they're going to use 3D models, other times they're going to use low frame per seconds and 3D models, and it look like shit, but
well
they don't care
yeah. I mean
because
the
like
I think
go ahead.
something that a lot of that will stand out to a lot of people that a lot of people will like is that it's all hand drawn. It's not 3D animation. Like
Yeah.
it's not computer, right? Like whereas a lot of most animated things are computer generated now. So it's all hand drawn, but to me, I feel like it works better if it's not on a big screen. Like if you're going to a movie theater, you expect to see like animation and I don't watch
The
these movies,
details.
but like like Totoro and like those kind of
No,
movies.
absolutely. I once saw The Boy and the Heron, and every time there was a screen, there was like little things you can go and look at with your eyes. It's like every page was like a page in a storybook, right?
Hmm.
Like every scene was a page in a storybook. Sorry, that sounded weird. And it was just really, really good. And
Yeah, because those are
it
made
obviously
for the
works.
big screen, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Animation movies. Yep.
So it's like it feel like to me some of the animation felt like it would be better suited on like for like a TV movie release. I
Mm.
also felt the movie could have been like a half hour shorter. Like it's not a problem. It just didn't need to be that long. But it's classic Tolkien or not Tolkien, but Peter Jackson turning something into a very very long movie. Um, and most of the voice work was fine. I thought um, nothing like some of the sound wasn't great to me. Like the horn was good, but like whenever characters get like whiny and start screaming, it really bugs my ears. And maybe I'm just very sensitive to that kind of thing. But
Mm.
just like it makes me like go, So that's just
Yeah.
me though.
Absolutely.
Um, but yeah, really, it's not. It's like 6 to 8 pages of actual text that they put
Mm.
into a 2 hour and 20 minute movie. Um, and I don't have a problem with the story. Like as far as Hera's the main character, really, like people are gonna be mad inherently that Helm took a backseat in his own story,
Mm.
but like they told his story.
They,
Like
they did, and he was the main. He turned into the main character for like 10 minutes in the movie. Basically that's like what happened in the
yeah,
end. Like what is actually one of the highlights of that scene, dude. Like again, the voice acting. The guy that was voice acting Helm like could just scream at the top of his lungs, and you could really feel it. And it was just fucking awesome watching that
yeah.
whole sequence. Maybe it was a little too anime for you because you just. I don't know, like, was that happening in the book that he was just beating the fuck out of dudes with his fist until he froze to death? That's what you said happened, right? The only difference was
Okay.
everyone's too afraid I'm too afraid to go to him because he's like frozen to death and like I don't.
Yeah. So there's a couple, I guess, different facets of this story.
Mm,
Um, one is well, yeah. So essentially, when Helm is in the Hornburg, which is later called Helm's Deep, it's cold. There's famine. Food is running out. All this stuff. Like it's a long winter. Like the winter lasted 5 months.
Mm.
And by the end of it, there was so much snow that when it melted, it flooded plains in Rohan, which
Mm.
ultimately pushed out the invading eastern armies that were there, which allowed Wolf to come and assault Meduseld in the first place
Mm.
in the book, in the story. But
Yeah.
here, right, like there's no other invaders. It's just Wolf is like
Leading an army of
gathering,
everybody.
yeah, he's like
Yeah.
gathering more forces to him and like whatever. So when Helm is locked up in there, well, one of the changes now that I'm thinking about is his son Hama, who in the movie he died because his horse was old and slow, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in
The
uh
book in the movie, it's a little bit more dramatic. Yeah.
yeah, in the book, essentially, everyone's very hungry, and so Hama's like, I'm gonna take some men and we're gonna go find some food, and Helm's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, you're not gonna do that, and he does it anyway, and they never come back. And
Yeah.
so Helm starts going out. He'll blow the horn. He'll go out and he'll go into enemy camps, and he'll one punch everyone to death.
One
Um,
punch. He literally does that. Is that what it says? Like, what
no,
is fucking?
no, he
He strikes them with such a mighty blow that he kills a single man by cracking. Like, and I'm sure it's
yeah,
in
no,
Tolkien-esque. Like, just
no, it doesn't say any of that. It just he would go and he would go in enemy camps and he would kill
beat
everyone.
them with
It
his bare
doesn't
hands.
say that he would. Well, it says he doesn't use a weapon, right? He would just use his fists.
Uh
He doesn't
huh.
use a weapon because he believes if he doesn't carry a weapon, then no weapon can hurt him. And
Uh huh.
yep. And yeah, he would go into enemy camps and try to find food, and then the Dunlendings, of course,
And throw
because
hands.
because
You
the,
just gotta throw
the
hands. He's
because
ready to
the
throw his hands.
the Dunlendings were not fond of Helm. They would. We don't know if it's true or not, but they would spread the rumor that if he couldn't find any food, he would just eat the people. So,
Damn. No, it's
um,
very historically accurate for like how things would be around back then. There'd just be like dudes that were like 6'8" and like wow this guy's like really strong and he like has a fucking reach of like like 10 feet and he can fucking swing and hit someone like fucking clock the brains out. Like it was a
yeah,
different. It was a very different time back in the day. Like those are the people they made stories about, right? This is people that did like weird stupid shit and the crazy feats of strength like. Or one time there was this old Revolutionary War story about this dude who was like 7'1" in the Revolutionary Army, like the American Revolutionary Army, and he picked up like a cannon and he carried it back like to like the fucking line or something like that. So these stories like have way carrying over. So
yeah,
it's cool, like just his way of inventing own legends of his characters, which is again like he's such a god tier at everything he does all the time.
yeah. So when he actually does fight Freka, in the book, it's not like how it is in the movie where like there's like this big crowd and like they're like Freka starts swinging on him and whatever. Like essentially, Helm like forces him out of the council because and he says the same kind of things. Like he makes the fat jokes, and whatever, and says like we don't fight in the halls, but outside men are freer. He says that exact thing in the like they give him a lot of the same lines. But as he's going out, he tells Freka's men like, "Hey guys, hey you should go talk to my men over there somewhere, which is like he's saying clearly like you guys are outnumbered, so don't try anything, right? And so he forces Freka out, and then he's kind of like, bro, I don't give a shit about your son trying to marry my daughter. Like that's not gonna happen. And you because in this they give Freka the line in the movie where he's like, I offered essentially like I offered you a staff to lean on, when you were like limping or whatever, right? And in the book, Helm is like, he's like, I can see I don't need your bent staff, you piece of shit, you fat fuck. And then he just punches him, and like I think the way that Tolkien writes is like he smote him with such a mighty blow that he died soon after.
Yeah, that's exactly how I would imagine Tolkien writing something.
Yeah, and then
Such a
he,
smote him with a mighty blow. Yes,
yes,
that's like the perfect way of describing things.
yeah, and then that's how it's described. But they expand a lot. Like they have to make these very few pages into a full length movie.
Mm.
And it has been officially released that the reason that they streamlined this movie and put it out as quickly as they did is simply to retain the rights to the Lord of the Rings films.
Hmm.
That's the only reason they made it, and that doesn't make it bad. It's just, just that's the reason they made this movie. And obviously, if it does well, then they'll continue to make more movies like it. I'll tell you, it's not doing great. I think it made like 5 million in its opening weekend.
Yeah, I think I was reading that it's not doing too hot right now.
Yeah, but yeah, it is what it is. The other one of the things they added in this movie that felt like a nerd's sex stream was the Watcher in the water eating the Mumakil. And yeah, like you just imagine like 8-year-old nerds who watched Lord of the Rings for the first time making this shit up, right? Like
Yeah.
she lures the Oliphant, and these are like obviously ancestors of the proper Oliphant from Lord of the Rings. So like maybe they're not as big and they're not as powerful, right? They're like more akin to elephants or something. I don't know. But yeah, she lures the elephant into the woods where there just happens to be a Watcher in the water, the same creature that guards the gate of Moria. It just happens to be there with a plant growing on its head and a giant vagina mouth.
Yeah.
And it eats the Oliphant. And I don't know, like that's something you do as a kid, right? You're just like, what if there's like a big battle between an Oliphant and the water You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it was really intense too. Like the way it dragging it to his mouth and shit like that. Like that took a while. Like I was like, ugh, man.
yeah.
Like that was a rough one. That was definitely one of the things that happened in the movie.
Yeah,
You know.
happened in the movie.
The character of Hera, what did you think of her? I thought she was fine, great. Like, nothing out of the ordinary. I don't think she was the atypical, like, maybe she was like a little bit like, she, everything's so basic, like, and it's so then that's kind of charming in its own way, where it's really simple,
Yeah.
because she's kind of like, the more I think that she's more just a stereotypical, like, wild child, like, kind of wild princess story that we've gotten a lot of times before, like in The Princess Bride and all those other kind of things, right? So,
Kind of. She reminds me a bit of Eowyn as well.
mhm.
But like that was another change they made is like, well, and I say it's a change because we don't know. Like obviously in Tolkien's writings, like she doesn't even have a name. But the story exists because because Freckle wants Wolf to marry her. That's still true. But like in the movie, like her and Wolf like grew up together, and so like they've been friends for a long time. So then she like half friend zones him, half I'm not gonna marry a man kind of thing. But yeah, she's similar to Eowyn in the way that like she wants to fight and she wants to help her family. Eowyn would marry anybody who could bring her some form of glory, but
Mm.
but yeah, I don't know. I didn't mind Hera. I didn't think she was anything special. But obviously there's gonna be complaints that she's like this girl boss character, but I don't see that really. Like she gets kidnapped really easily, and she doesn't really like fight her way out of any real situation that like she loses almost every fight she's in, other than like outsmarting a fucking elephant. So, and the only like extraordinary feat she really does is she climbs a mountain and talks to an eagle. And the eagle thing, I didn't really get either. I don't know why we need eagles here. So
They're cool.
yeah, the eagle brings Helm's armor to
I really thought he was gonna
Frail
talk.
off.
I really thought the eagle was gonna talk, and I really thought you were gonna be really happy the eagle talked, but he didn't talk.
The
And I
eagles
thought
apparently
got,
only. I mean, in
yeah,
this movie, apparently they can only talk to wizards.
yeah,
And that's the other thing too. At the end, she's gonna go see Gandalf for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't know why Gandalf has any interest in talking to her. Like his fate is entirely bound to the rings. That's why he's in Middle Earth. So I don't know why he cares about talking to her. Sauron does actually show up after Freylof becomes king. That's accurate. So no surprise to see Saruman there at the very end, because that is when he started to occupy Orthanc, is right when Freyalof became king. So. Also, Haleth, the older brother, in the movie he dies because he gets shot through the throat with an arrow. In the book, he died defending the throne room. Like there was nothing that from what I remember of them burning down Edoras. So that was a choice. That was a choice.
Make things a little more dramatic. I think that throat shot thing is definitely very Tolkien-esque, though, right? Like for in battlefield injuries like that to happen and shit like that. Just take arrows in the wrong way. Is there something like I could have sworn I read about like other, people getting hit with arrows like that. So, but yeah, that was really intense. He felt bad for the younger brother too, like the bard, like in the horse, like his old horse too. He felt really bad
that
for
also was a little confusing. That right, he had his little harp, right? I'm pretty sure it's a harp.
Yeah. No, it's a lyre. It was a lyre. I'm sorry.
Sure, he has a lyre, and he's making some songs, and obviously those are songs that were in the Lord of the Rings. Like one of them was Theoden's song before they attacked in the Battle of the Pelennor Fields in Gondor, and all that, right? So he has the lyre, and then I think Hera gets it, and then she gives it to some little kid. And then the little kid has it as they're escaping at the very end through the glittering mines, or the glittering caves. And then when she's riding her horse at the end to go meet Gandalf, she has it on her horse.
On her horse.
It's just flopping in the back there on her horse. Maybe it's a different one. I don't know. But she also had one. And so, I don't know. Maybe she just took it back from the little kid. So, yeah. The Shield Maiden girl, the older lady, completely new character as far as I know. The little squire guy is new as well. There's no problem with those like new kind of characters. Like you need to expand your cast and have some interesting dynamics between people. So you can't just have like Helm, Fricka, Wolf, and Helmet and Haleth, right? So we have Hera, and we have the Shield Maiden lady, and we have the Squire, and then we have Targ, on Wolf's side, who is like the only guy speaking sense through most of the movie that everybody just fucking ignores.
The general guy.
Yeah, General Targ, I think.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude. Who's awesome. Like.
Yeah.
Very simple, very classic stuff. Like the old grizzled veteran that's like upset with the status quo and finally wants to do something about it, giving advice to the young buck that's like up and coming.
Yeah.
Just really 101.
And then the young buck just ignores everything he says. He should have just tried some psychology 101, like reverse psychology. You know what I'm saying? Like.
Exactly.
Like he's not gonna listen, so just tell him the opposite. But Freyalof being present through the beginning of the movie was also a choice, because again in the story he doesn't come out of Dunharrow until essentially until Helm's dead. But yes, so to your point, when Helm does eventually die, he's on the dike on the wall of the Hornburg, frozen, and he looks like a frozen cave troll or mountain troll. But none of the enemies would approach him because they were afraid. They were afraid.
They were afraid.
Yeah. And they started, because of the horn, right? They started just fleeing their camps anyway. They had but here in the movie, right, like none of that really happens. Like he goes out like once that we see. And then he
goes. He was going out the whole like winter. Like remember they were there for like 2 months. And
but we only saw it once. We only saw it once.
Yeah, but it was implied it happened a couple times.
Yes. And when we did see it, Hera followed him, and then he beat a mountain troll to death with his fists.
Which is pretty fucking badass.
And and then he just started beating the shit out of all the Dunlingdons, until he froze to death. So it's quite different, but that was one of the coolest
Pretty
scenes is when he's just like one punching everybody.
Anybody, yeah, like they're all like they all want to fight him, and like they're all climbing up like the thing, and
Hmm.
and when he's like Helm Hammerhand still stands, like he screamed that voice actor screamed that at the top of his fucking lungs, it was fucking awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Why do you think the movie isn't doing well?
I think it's hard to get people to pay money, especially $16 to $17 a ticket to go watch an animated film that should have just been
Mm,
put on HBO Max anyway.
that is
Um,
true.
and also, it's the holidays;
Do you
people are
think this?
spending money on other things.
I could foresee this movie making its money back via DVDs and other kind of like secondary streams and everything like that. Do you
Yeah, I
think
mean,
that'll
I think
happen?
you'd get at least some signups to HBO Max to watch it.
Hmm.
But it's tough with like people aren't gonna like going to the movies for like a family of like four or whatever is gonna cost you like $200 these days, um, with like all the snacks and all the shit you have to buy and the tickets themselves, right? Like four tickets for a family of four, you're gonna be $70 plus concessions. You're gonna be another like $100. So it's quite an expense, and when you have Christmas coming up and there's no real reason to drive you to the movies, it's tough. Like I don't know if this was you know uh, a live action version of something Lord of the Rings
Hmm.
ish, something that people were actually maybe interested in, like first age kind of stuff, like the Silmarillion, or you can even do some of the second age stuff, but like things people have been wanting to see forever, like you could sell some tickets, right?
Yeah.
Like if you just had a movie about like the fall of Numenor and the destruction of Numenor, people would pay to go see that, I think.
Mm.
But War of the Rohirrim, it's inconsequential. It's not like you don't need anything. Like it's not like a good entry for someone into Lord of the Rings. Like
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
just a
This
standalone thing,
You
really.
would only see you would only see this movie if you're an anime fan or if you're a Tolkien fan. I'm both, so I got I was obviously really gonna see it. Like I'm part of that crowd they captured.
Yeah.
But I just think also like there are a lot of people that aren't like Tolkien fans that aren't gonna see this because they hate anime. Like I think that's also a real thing.
Well, in this
Um,
streaming world, we've all been trained that you can just wait a couple months and watch it on the thing you're already paying for, right?
yeah, that too.
So that's kind of where it is. It's it's tough. It's tough to get people to go see something that you know
You're cutting out.
all
You
the
cut out
kids want to
super
see
bad.
that. Like parents aren't necessarily gonna take their kids to go see
Oh,
War of the Rohirrim over Moana too.
we just desync super hard. Yeah, that's like a
Yeah,
three
it's like a
second
four or
delay or
five
some
second
shit.
delay.
Yeah. Well, at least we got some stuff. We can turn the webcam off if you want to if you want to keep just talking. Um,
Well, it's still gonna
normal.
desync, right?
Yeah, we'll start talking over each other
So
and be really annoying. Okay, well, let's just get our final
yeah.
thoughts in about the movie then. I'm gonna send this via long mail and then I will end this sentence right now.
No, I think it's not you, it's me that's on the delay because I start talking and I don't see my bubble turn green for like 4 seconds, so it's me.
Oh.
But yeah, we'll wrap this up because there's not really much else to say either. I do think you enjoyed this film far more than I did. I would give it like a
Hmm.
6 out of 10, and yeah, I'm glad it exists, but I don't necessarily need to see it again or need to see it in theaters. It
Mm.
should have just gone straight to HBO Max. That's my opinion. But yeah,
All right, cool. Yeah, you're right. I did really probably enjoy it because, again, I really love anime. I really love just watching it. I can sit down and really enjoy watching any kind of animation essentially, and I'll probably most likely enjoy it as long as it's not like just completely, totally like, aka like just way too horny. That's just unfortunate. You'll probably laugh. I'll see the laugh drop whenever when that word hits you. But yeah, there it is right there. But you know, the problem with that is it's just some anime is just made to appeal to a very specific audience that are gonna, you know, buy that stuff over and over and over and over again. Like, you know, there's a reason there's a NSFW alley, and it's always usually one of the biggest alleys now at conventions, because sex sells. So I try to avoid a lot of anime like that. So I really enjoyed that this one wasn't very hypersexualized or anything like that. That was a good plus because I was genuinely worried that was going to happen. Um, you know, and I just, you know, thought the animation was, you know, great. So great. It was like, you know, it passed my original check of not being like, you know, hypersexual gooner bait, and it passed into like the realm of, okay, this is actually like something I enjoy watching, and like the animation is beautiful sometimes. Like you're right, there were definitely some slow FPS points, but some of the, like, you know, landscapes and everything like that were just so beautiful. Really, really touching stuff. And again, the voice acting, you know, when he blew the horn, you could really hear it, like, you know, you could feel it like reverberate in like in your like lungs and stuff like that. Like not your lungs, but like in like just your fucking brain, you know, or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like maybe they used the same horn sound effect that was from the Two Towers when Gimli blew it before Aragorn and Theoden rode out to take on the orcs and all that. So it probably was the same horn blast, which works because that was a very massive horn blast. But yeah, that's it. That's everything. We're gonna be back next week. I'll probably be back. I don't know, I'll probably post something Sunday or Monday just for news and some other stuff. And yeah, like, comment, rate, review, subscribe, click all the buttons and all that stuff. And we'll be back. Bye.
Bye.